Good afternoon, all of you. Excited? So today we have a dual toppers talk, okay, to guide you all about the civil services journey, how they aspire to do it, what the strategy was in everything. So there are two people, rank 41, Mr. Shubham. And rank 46, Mr. Manan. Mr. Shubham is a native of Madhubani, Bihar. So Madhubani painting पढ़ लेना सब अब. Shubham is a computer science graduate from Hansraj College, DU. He qualified all the stages of UPSC Civil Services Examination and made it to the final list in his very first attempt. His optional was geography, so you can ask your doubts accordingly, and his first preference for services is IFS. So let's have a huge round of applause for both our toppers.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, my name is Shubham. I have secured rank 41 this year. First rank, it feels really weird to be here because I have not attended a single topper's talk physically. Also because I might be younger or the same as most of you, so it feels a little weird. But as Manan has already done a lot of things, said a lot of things, so my job has been made a bit easier. First, I'd like to introduce something about myself, my academic background and all. So I did my class 10 from Vidya Vihar Residential School in Purnia, Bihar. I did my +2 in PCM from Delhi Public School, Bokaro, and then I graduated from Hansraj College, Delhi University with an honors degree in computer science in 2021, and then gave the examination in 2022, and this is the result, 41th rank. So before starting, I would like to give some disclaimers. First is how I am associated with Vision, right? Because you should be knowing why I am here, why they have invited me. So I was associated with their Abhyas, both prelims and mains, as well as Vision mains test series, which happened after the prelims. It included both GS as well as essay. I was also associated with their interview guidance program. So I was associated with quite a few of their courses. Second disclaimer is that all the things that I will be saying are hindsight analysis. I won't even call it analysis, I will call it speculation, because no one knows how they got the marks. I can't be sure that if I work hard or if I give the paper very well, I will get good marks in some paper. For example, if I will show you my marks, I was very confident in GS1 that I would get more than 110, but I got 96. I don't know why. I was not sure that I would get 298 in my optional paper, but I got it. I don't know why. So no one can be sure of that they can be getting that much marks in any of the papers. So all are these just speculations. Next disclaimer is that whatever Manan has said or any other topper would say might be conflicting from what I would say, because our journey has been different. My personality is different from his or some other toppers. So it is up to you to decide which suggestion you want to take. You have to take whatever suits you, whatever suits your strategy. Don't just blindly follow all the toppers. I have not followed any toppers. So just decide for yourself, because if you can't decide for yourself, I don't think you would go very far in this examination. So be a very good judge of all the things that's happening around you. So also I would like to make it very interactive, so I would ask a lot of questions. You can ask questions which are directly related to what I am saying, whatever dots you have, and after that we will do a common Q&A. So we can take generic dots in that, right? So first, how many of you watch sports, any sport? Most of you will be following cricket, right? How many of watch athletics? Nice. After Neeraj Chopra or before that? Okay. So any one of you can answer that. But which is the most hardest sport? What do you think? Which is the most hardest sport for a athletic or for a player? Take a guess. Which is the most hardest sport? Football. Okay. Swimming. Chess. Wrestling. Okay. These are difficult sports, but this is not the hardest sport. The hardest sport is 400-meter hurdles. If any of you have seen that, it's the most hardest sport an athlete can like participate in. There is a very beautiful video on Walk's YouTube channel. Why 400-meter hurdles is a most difficult sport. So I will take that analogy 400-meter hurdles. So everyone know how tracks look like. Also, I have not prepared anything except for this, just to give the structure of my whole talk. I have like thought about this last evening. Before that, also like to give my marks so you know what you want to take from me. Essay was 170, GS 196, GS 209, GS 300, GS 416. Optional paper 1 was 152. Optional math geography is my optional. Optional paper 2 was 146. This is 298. Total was 836, I guess. Interview was 179. Total was 1015. So make any sense of that, any sense of what I have written. I could not make it because I was expecting lot more in interview, less in optional, more in GS3, more in GS1, less in essay. So I can't say for sure that you can follow my strategy in any of these papers. So just follow whatever your heart says. You can disagree with me. I will be more happier if you disagree with me with logic. So yeah. So there are 10 hurdles in 400-meter hurdles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10. So that you are all of you are starting point. So the first hurdle is the decision, right? So you have to take decision that you would sit for this exam. I will talk a lot. I will talk about all the hurdles later. Second is strategy. What strategy you make after you took the decision that you would be appearing for this examination. Third is prelims. What's your strategy for prelims? How you prepare for prelims? Fourth is mains. Then current affairs, that is also big hurdle. Then revision and test. Then a very big factor is motivation, because it's a very boring journey, very boring preparation. So how do you motivate yourself? Next is interview. Next hurdle is result, because result is also very big hurdle. I will talk about more that. I won't be talking about this hurdle because this is a civil servant, because I have not yet like become a civil servant. I would maybe vision will invite me after 40 years, then I would talk about this. So I can't be really talking about this. So first I will talk about decision. Like all of you have taken the decision that you would be appearing for the UPSC, become an IAS or IFS. My first choice is IFS, by the way. You can ask questions later. So there are various ways to make this decision why you want to become a civil servant. More than why, I think it is more important that you believe yourself you will pass this examination, because having an interest in becoming an IAS, having an interest in UPSC won't give you much if you don't believe in yourself that you would pass this examination. So you also have to analyze your own ability, whether you would be able to cope up with the pressure, cope up with the syllabus. So if you have interest as well as believe in your own ability, then I would say that you have pass this hurdle, that taking the decision. This decision should not be forced by your parents or the society. You have to take the decisions for yourself. And there will be a lot of micro decisions in all the phases, all the hurdles. But this is the biggest decision, because if you have to like complete the 400-meter hurdles, you have to like start somewhere. Then starting is the most difficult part of this examination in all the stages, and this is the most important start, right? You have taken the decision and you don't know how to start that. That's why you are attending the topper's talk. Even if you have started, you don't know for sure that your start is good or not, because if you see the 400-meter race any day, the starting hurdle is the most important. If you fail at this hurdle, you won't win the top 3 or you won't win the gold medal. So this is the most important thing. I hope that all of you have taken the decision yourself, not forced by anyone. I think you won't have to regret your decision, because I can say for sure that more than 50% of you won't make it even after the 6th attempt. Might make it, might not make it. I'm not an astrologer, but accept the decision. Don't regret it. If you have taken the decision, go with it. Like, believe in your ability. Then after you have taken the decision, the next thing is to prepare the strategy, like how you would like pass this examination, how you would prepare for all the stages, all the hurdles. So there are lot of ways to prepare your own strategy. I would be sharing mine, how I prepared my strategy. So when I was in college, I decided that I would give UPSC. So I started reading a newspaper first. Indian Express I used to read from the college. Before that, I used to read Times of India, and at my home Hindi newspaper. In Bihar, my village, only Hindi newspaper come. So I used to read Hindustan back then, and then in college I started reading Indian Express. So these are small things that I did. So when COVID struck, I was at home for 1.5 years of my college. I was at my home. So I was feeling quite bored with what to do. So I started watching a lot of toppers talk. I watched a lot of toppers talk, but I don't remember which topper said what. So I can't put a face to what I have taken from a particular topper. So I just watched a lot of videos just as like a hobby, not to make my own strategy for UPSC. So after quite a few time, I in my subconscious mind, I was like prepared. I was like I had my own strategy. I don't know where it came from, but I was sure that I have to give test. I have to do what the sources are, what books I have to read, how many tests to give, how to revise. So all I had this from the topper stock. Next thing what I did was I decided to join an integrated prelims and mains test series at the beginning of my preparation. So in June 2021, 1 year before the examination, I joined integrated prelims and mains. So in that, what used to happen, every week there used to be a prelims and mains test series. So I decided that my whole strategy will be based on this test series. So as there was like a very strategic manner the test used to happen. For if I give an example, I joined the test series in June. My graduation completed in June, on June 15. I gave the final paper, and since then I started seriously preparing for this examination. And on 1st August, there was the first test in this IPM test series. So what I decided was I would complete the syllabus of only that part which will be asked in the particular test. So for 1st August test, it was art and culture, and there was prelims of ancient and medieval history. So I started from the scratch. I prepared that part, then moved to other, if say another test is of world history and society. So I decided to study world history and society. So these was my strategy. Strategy was based on the annual yearly prelims and test series. So another strategy was related to my optional. My optional is geography. My strategy related to my optional was that since I had no background of geography, I decided that I would do a foundation coaching of geography. I did not do any foundation of GS or SA. I joined a foundation coaching. So these was my strategy for GS. I followed a test series so that I get it into the rhythm of revising, giving tests. So I gave a lot of tests. If I have to like point out one stuff of my strategy that actually worked, is giving a lot of tests. If I give an example, I gave more than 100 prelims tests. more than 60 mains test. Even interview, I gave more than 25 mock interview. So you can see my name in all the coaching. So I gave a lot of tests. So my whole strategy was based on giving a lot of tests, testing myself. So this was my strategy. Next, coming to the prelims, as I said, my prelims and mains preparation was integrated. I did not study only for the prelims or only for the mains, because lot of things are same in prelims and mains, as the Manan pointed out. But, so I would like to give a small thing about sources I have followed, because there in small topics like IR or society, you might not be sure about what source to follow. So even for those who are not in the coaching or have not joined any coaching, they might be confused about what source to follow. So since I had not joined coaching, what I followed was for ancient India. I just speak. For ancient India, I did R.S. Sharma. For medieval, Satish Chandra. So for these two, I prepared my own notes after reading from these books, as well as from Tamil Nadu board. There is history book of Tamil Nadu board. It's a very precise, very small book. So from these three, I prepared my own notes of ancient and medieval India. Then for modern history, I did Spectrum, only Spectrum. Again, even in Spectrum, I prepared my own notes from Spectrum. For next is what? For art and culture, I did Nitin Singhania as well as internet, because a lot of things are not given in Nitin Singhania. Again, I prepared my own notes for from Nitin Singhania and internet. Now coming to the society part, there is a very good source of vision value added materials of society. So in society, there are 6-7 topics like globalization, urbanization, communalism. So you can prepare short notes on these topics. But if you like analyze last 2 years paper, they are asking very random question in society. This year they have asked very random, like how globalization is changing or something, very weird questions. Like if, for example, work from home question was there. So these are not specifically given in any of the topics. So there is no cost benefit of preparing for society is very less. So what I would rather advise you to do is give a lot of tests of society, write keywords like secularism or the examples of society, because lot of the questions that might come in future would be based on current affairs and the application of the society part. So you can prepare basic stuff and just do value addition over them. I would talk about value addition later. So coming to say, since geography was my optional, I did not prepare much of geography for GS. My optional was like covering for the geography. But if I give you an advice for GS geography, you can do 11 and 12 NCRT, GC Leong, and there is a website called PMF IAS where geography is given in a very structured manner, notes wise. So you can also like take a help from them. Now coming to the post-independent India and the world history, these are very small parts. Only one question or one or two questions come from these two topics. So again, depends on the stage of your preparation. If you have time, you can read the book. Since I had a lot of time with me, I read Bipin Chandra India since independence. I read the whole book. For world history, I did vision value added material of world history. It's quite a bulky book, bulky notes I would say. So I did all the things because I had time. If you don't have time, you can just skip through all these or just read very selectively these books, because if you see post independence, they are asking from the beginning like 1947 to 1960, very like reorganization they are asking, or the assimilation of STs, or the reorganization of states or partition they are asking. So you can only read these things in the post independent part. I think that we are done with GS1 sources. For GS2, what I did, Lakshmikant is the Bible for the polity, so everyone reads Lakshmikant. Apart from that, a lot of things are not given in the Lakshmikant, which are part of the main syllabus. So, for example, comparison of India constitution with foreign other countries. Every year, one questions come from this, and this is a very difficult question, like comparison of Speaker of India with UK. That was last year, or this year it was what was French election and Indian president election. So luckily I have did all this from vision value added materials on governance. They had all the topics like role of civil servants, e-governance, good governance, as well as SHGs, microfinance, pressure groups. These are small topics that are part of governance, which are not given in very well in Lakshmikant. So you can prepare your own notes from what I did was from value added materials, vision value added materials, or from the internet. So don't miss a single micro topic given in the syllabus. These will actually help differentiate your answer. If you can write one or two answers which you had already prepared, for example, if I had already read about French president election and the Indian president election, I wrote the keyword that is two ballots, yes, second ballot system for the French president. So these things might help you increase your marks. Next was IR and social justice is part of governance. In IR, since my first preference was IFS, I had like quite an interest in reading about foreign policy and stuff. So I read vision value added material of IR that gives a basic background of every country in India's relation with every countries, as well as of multilateral organizations such as UN, parts of World Bank, etc., as well as current affairs. It also covers current affairs. So I read from value added materials, and if you analyze fewer question papers, they are asking mostly from current affairs, right? IR, there are 4 questions in the GS paper 2 of IR, and almost 3 or 4 of them are from current affairs. You can example last year it was I2U2, India Sri Lanka relation, BIMSTEC, and there were one more question. These are from current affairs. So what I did for current affairs was read newspapers as well as Vision Monthly magazine. They just like copy from Vision Monthly magazine, if I would like to say, like the topics that are mentioned in the Vision Monthly magazine, they are like directly asked in the mains examination, because these are in the news, right? If these items or these issues are in the news, it will be covered in the monthly magazine, not just of Vision but of all the coaching magazines. So you have to like predict what would come in the examination. So I used to predict the kind of questions. So I predicted I2U2, BIMSTEC, India, Sri Lanka. So I had already prepared a very good answers or the factual base of all these things. So you could predict from the whatever is happening around you. Because I also predicted Russia-Ukraine war, but they did not ask. So it is like a hit and a miss. But if you are already prepared for a particular question, it would benefit you in the examination. So that's we are done with IR source. For GS3 economy, I did from Siram IS economy book. I think it's a very good source of economy. Then also I did small parts like agriculture, food processing industry, which comes in the mains. I did from again Vision value added material of economy. They have very extensive. So again, I made my own notes based on Vision value added material and the internet. For the environment, I did not read any particular book, because I thought in mains the questions comes from current affairs generally, or the questions are very random. There is no point of preparing for the environment. I just read whatever was in the Vision monthly magazine or in the newspapers. Even for the prelims, I did it from the newspaper itself or from the test series. I did not read any particular book for the environment part. People do read Shankar IAS book, but I did not read that. For the internal security and disaster management, again I made my own notes from internet as well as from Vision value added materials. So for me, Vision value added materials was like my primary source for a lot of small things like internal security or social justice or governance. Now moving to for science and tech. Science and tech, again, this is very current affairs based thing. You can't prepare for the science and tech, but I did some basic. I did make my own online notes from internet for basic things like nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, genetics or robotics. These small things that also comes in the prelims as well as mains. Right now they are not asking last 2 years, but they might ask. So for your basic understanding, if you are not from the science background, you can make notes of your own notes from the internet or small topics that are frequently being asked. For example, nanotechnology or stem cell technology. These you might also find in monthly magazines or the current affairs magazine anyway which follow. So you can make your own notes for the science and technology part. Now coming to the GS4 ethics, there are 2 approaches to deal with the ethics part, right? First is like you go spontaneously, because you can write the answer even if you have not read anything about GS4, because these are very application type question. You have to suppose, you have to like play a kind of game. If you are in that position, what would you do? So I started my GS4 preparation randomly. I just like pick the keywords from the syllabus like empathy or the values associated, foundational values or emotional intelligence. I googled that, but I found that it was not working for me, since I had a habit of making notes. I just leaving up one whole paper to the luck or to my own understanding. I did not feel confident with that. So I again prepared my own notes for GS4 from vision value added materials for ethics, also from internet. I took a lot of examples from internet, also from the newspapers. If you are finding good ethical examples, ethical case studies, you can make the notes. So in the notes, what I used to do, make a static part, and in the side, if there is a page like this, I used to leave this part for value addition. So even if later on, if I find something good example or data or quote, I used to write some in this page, so that my notes are not haphazard. My notes are very like consolidated. My notes are at the single place. My notes are very precise. It would include both the static part as well as the current affairs part. So this was used to my notes. uh, I I did not do much for the case studies. What I felt through my preparation for GS4, what worked was test series. I gave a lot of tests of GS4 because completing the paper is very important, and completing the paper well in GS4 would give you a lot of marks. So when I started giving a lot of tests, I realized a lot of things, like you have to use the keywords, you have to use the buzzwords in the GS4, how you can open an answer, how you can open a case studies, how you can use the ethical values in both case studies as well in the theory part. So when you are practicing a lot of GS4 answer, you realize on yourself what needs to be added. You also have to work on the feedback that is being given. So for me, practice was the like most important source of GS4 preparation. I used to like improve on my answers, improve on my answer test by test. I also had my own notes, but main focus was on giving tests, completing the paper. At the beginning, it used to take me around 3.5 hours to like just complete the ethics paper. But by the end of the cycle, I used to complete beforehand. So even in my actual mains, I completed 5 minutes before the time. But even though the paper was very lengthy, everyone says that the last year paper was very lengthy, but I completed beforehand. So I used last 5 minutes in value addition, like underlining the buzzwords or like adding quotes or something like that. So practice will help you in improving your answers in GS4 as well as in time management. So for time management, what I did in GS4, I gave 1.5 hours for the case studies. So I started with the case studies because my logic was that my mind is free at the beginning. Like I am not cluttered with the theory part. So since case studies required application, I started with the case studies, and my aim was to finish it in 1.5 hours, so that the rest 1.5 hours is for the theory part, because you have 13 questions of 10 marks in the theory, and you would require around 7 minutes to like complete all the 13 questions. So 13 into 7, 91. So you require 1.5 hours to complete the theory and 1.5 hours to like complete the case study. But it won't be ideal if you start practicing, start giving tests. You'd find that you won't be completing the case studies part in 1.5 hours. So be flexible in that. In my actual mains, I completed the case studies part in 1 hour 40 minutes, because as Manan said, these were lot of case studies were repetitive. So I thought about how to make every answer unique, answer unique from the previous one. So it took me a lot of time. It took me 1 hour 40 minutes, but I compensated with writing fast for the theory part. So you have to be flexible in this examination. These were my sources. If I come to the prelims specifically, he has already told a lot of things. So for me, uh, all my strategy, all the revisions that I did for the prelims, I focused on giving a lot of tests for that. As I said, I gave more than 100 prelims tests. So since he was asking about uncertainty, so how would you deal with uncertainty? I would say just give a lot of tests, So what would happen? You would get conceptual clarity as well as factual clarity from these tests. So not just give tests, also analyze it. So how would you analyze it? For me, what I used to do, uh, I used to do the prelims paper in iteration, various iteration. So in first iteration, I would do those questions in which I was more than 100% sure. So I would get around 45 to 50. In this, I was more than 100% sure. In the second iteration, I would do those questions in which I would eliminate three options, or I would make some logical guess. So these were around 20 or 15 questions. Then again, next iteration, I would make another logical guess in around 10 to 12 questions. So for me, magic number was 85. I used to attempt 85 questions. This number I got from attempting this much test. When I started taking 85 questions, I used to get more than 110 in almost all my test paper of prelims. So it would depend, it would vary, right? It would vary from people to people how much you need to attempt. Since this year prelims paper was very more uncertain, you can't use you would not have used elimination technique. So you might, as I said, you have to be flexible. So I might have attempted less number of questions, because again, prelims is relative, GS paper 1 is relative. If it is hard for you, it is hard for the others as well. So don't think about how hard it is. Just be flexible in the examination. So I might have attempted less, 80 or 75, but your efficiency would have to be higher then, right? So in this 85, I used to get around 65 correct and 20 wrong. Even in my actual prelims, I got 180. I think that's the breakup. I don't know was the actual breakup, because they had not released the answer key yet. So this was my prelim strategy, attempting 85 questions, giving a lot of prelims test, analyzing. As I said, I used to do in iterations. So after I used to come home after giving test, I did not pay much attention on the first iteration question, in which I was more than 100% sure. I would focus more on the other rest, but rest 50% of the questions, because I wanted to know why I got it wrong. So when you are doing an analysis, you have to focus on why you are getting a particular question wrong, right? So there can be three reason of why you are getting an answer wrong. First would be the conceptual problem. Your concepts are not clear. This would be mostly related to the polity and economic part, because in those two they are asking very conceptual questions. So when you are analyzing, see why a question has been wrong, whether it is conceptual error, whether it is factual, or memorization error. You are not able to recall the factization. So in this, what you have to do is again revision. By revision only, you would be getting your facts right. You would be able to recall. So find, and this would be more applicable to history, ancient, medieval, and modern history, as well as for the mapping part. I won't be talking much about mapping, because I did not do anything for the maps. I already had, since I had a geography optional, I was quite good with maps. So I did not do anything extra. And the third factor could be the logical guesses that you took, or the luck that you tried in the examination. Obviously, you would pick 10 or 15 questions out of just luck, because you would be attempting around 85 or 90. You won't be knowing all the questions, so you would try your luck. So these can be three types of error. You can't do much for this. You have to improve your logical guesses. Would depend on on the day of your examination. But you can do a lot of things for these two. How to improve on these two. There is a conceptual error. Go back to the basics. Go back to the Lakshmikant or whatever economic source you are having. Get your concepts right. If as I said, do revision if the error is this. For the CSAT paper, again I gave a few tests. I won't be saying a lot of tests. It was never a problem for me. But again, CSAT paper can be hard, but you don't have to solve all the 80 questions. All the 80 questions, you have to just solve around 30 questions, so that you be comfortably above 66 marks. You don't have to score more than 100, more than 120. Don't aim for that. For those who are saying that this year paper was hard, it was hard, but you don't have to say attempt all the questions. again take decision, micro decision about which questions you want to like solve. Which if the maths was hard, you could have attempted a comprehension part, right? There are around 25 to 30 comprehension questions, and in that around 15 to 20 are easy questions. Rest are some doubtful one, but you can easily attempt those 15-20 questions, and you can easily do 15 questions in maths, right? So you have to take decisions about what questions you want to solve in the CSAT paper. Again, since question level difficulty is increasing, I would request you to like give a lot of tests. Pick a type of question you don't feel comfortable in. So for me it was probability, so I went to YouTube, saw few probability lectures, so that my own understanding of probability increases, because probability is mostly of +2 level. It is not being taught in class 10, right? So probability is of +2 level, so you can see in which topic you are not comfortable in and in which topic you are comfortable in. So improve on those topics you are not comfortable in, and just pick those questions you are comfortable in the examination. So these were the prelims. Again, coming to the main, for me, I started only prelims preparation for the only last 2 months before prelims. So April and May, I gave all my energy to the prelims by giving lot of tests, revising a lot of my basic stuff. So this was prelims. For mains, again, as I said, I was part of the yearly test series. After the prelims, I joined a lot of test series apart from the yearly test series I was part of. I joined Vision, I joined one more coaching. Why I joined a lot of test series? Because a lot of people, a lot of toppers would say that just stick to one source, stick to one kind of test series, don't like spread your wings everywhere. So my logic was that I don't want to align my whole preparation, align my whole thinking in only one way. So if I was giving yearly test series of one coaching, by the end of the cycle, I would know from where they are setting the questions, from where they are asking, like from which source they are asking, what kind of questions they are asking, how I could use elimination in their prelims, or the feedback that they are giving. It would be similar across all my papers, right? So I joined other test series for different perspectives, so that I can get feedback from 3 different people, because feedback of one coaching would be different from other coaching. So if in this way you would improve your answers, I thought more, so that I get something from one coaching, something from other mentor. So that's why I joined a lot of different test series, so that I also practice a different kind of questions, get different kinds of feedback. Uh, if I talk about time management, for the mains, because you need a kind of managing your time for the main, for GS as well as essay for the and the optional. So for the mains, after the prelims, what I did was plan my test, when I will be giving test, how much days I would leave for the revision part. So I knew that I would be writing the mains just next day after the prelims. So I gave the first 10-15 days in revising my optional as well as GS. So by the time the results came on, I think 22nd or 23rd June, I was done with my all my notes. My notes were consolidated. I had revised my notes. So after that, I just started writing tests. Started writing a lot of tests. So I used to plan my tests like that. I used to have GS 1 test, then 2 days gap, GS 3 test, and then again 2-3 days gap, GS 3, again GS 4. In between, I would have optional paper, maybe 2 days gap with optional paper, optional paper. It's not like after GS4 optional. These two will run simultaneously. So I would give my time to the GS as well as for the optional. So I would revise GS for maybe one day, or maybe 6-7 hours of one day, and 2 hours for my optional. It would depend again on your optional, again your own strategy. So these two used to run simultaneously. So for my mains, I gave 3 iterations of the test. By the 3 iteration, what I meant, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, again GS 1, 2, 3, 4, again GS 1, 2, 3, 4. In between also there was essay test. Even for the optional, it was 3 iteration. I joined 2 optional test series. So one coaching had 1 iteration and another coaching had 2 iterations. So I gave in the iteration. I used to revise, give test, revise, give test, and after giving all the tests, I also used to do value addition. For mains, what I did, uh, I prepared my own different sheets from different from my notes about facts and data. I don't have my notes with them, but so that I would have shared with you, but I don't have my notes. Facts and data I used to divide into GS1. What are the data that I could use in this paper? GS2, what are the data I could use? Again, the same for the GS3. Apart from that, I made another sheet of examples and case studies. These are again value addition to your own notes. So for examples and case studies, again GS1, GS2, GS3 and GS4, as well as my optional. For my optional also I prepared a case study. If anyone is geography optional, how much? Quite a few of them. So you would be knowing that in geography optional you need a lot of case studies. So I had prepared a separate book, a separate 3-4 page sheet about the kind of case studies that I would be writing in the examination. So I had prepared case studies for every single micro topic. So if a question come from this topic, I would be using this case study. So in my actual exam, I wrote case studies almost 80 to 90% of my questions. So these were actually very helpful. So these are the value addition and how you would use value addition in the actual examination, right? You just don't have to like keep these sheets. You have to use this in the actual examination. So what I did was in the intro, I used to start mostly by giving data. So you can start your answer by like 3 or 4 ways. First is by definition. Like you can start your answer by defining something given in the question or defining the keywords like sustainable development. If they are asking, you can define sustainable development. Or you can start with particular data. For example, there is a question about coastal flooding or the sea level rise. You can start with the data that the sea has been rising 0.9 mm per year or something like that. So I used to start by this. Another way you can start your answer is by giving context. Since a lot of question nowadays about a sentence, they give a quote and like critically analyze or explain or elaborate. So in that you can also give context about why the question has been asked or the small description of the sentence that is being asked. So these are some of the ways that in which you can start your answers. So this value addition went to the introduction as well as in the body. So in the body, what I did, if I used to write an argument in terms of say the question are causes of something, I used to first argument, first cause. I used to substantiate it with an example or a data so that examiners know that I'm not bluffing. I know my data, I know the example, I know that the cause that I'm stating is actually a cause. How would an examiner know that you are not just bluffing, you have complete knowledge of the issue? So you would have to substantiate your argument with something. So my one thing I had learned in college since I was part of the debating society was that you have to support your argument with 3 things: why, how, so what. This I learned in my debating. So every argument should have one of at least 3. In debate you used to have all the 3, but in the argument that you are putting in your mains answer, both GS as well as optional as well as in the essay, you could at least give one of these 3: why a particular argument is valid, how a particular argument is valid, or how it would be applied. So what is that? What if an argument is valid? So what's the conclusion of that? Why it is important? How it would affect a particular stakeholder? So these 3 were my like source for making my answers different from some other topper or someone else. So I used to substantiate my answers through these 3 points. Again, examples, I used to do value addition. In conclusion also, I used to give a lot of buzzwords. So buzzwords are, for example, SDG goals. Some quotes of the Prime Minister or the government like Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, sustainable development, whole of government approach, quality of life, social well-being. So in the conclusion, there are a lot of ways of concluding an answer. You can just revise what you have written in the body, or you can give way forward. I did not write like way forward and then wrote way forward, something like that. I wrote the way forward in the conclusion. So again, in the intro and conclusion, don't give a single type of intro in all the questions. All the 20 questions, you should have 4 or 5 kind of intros. In one you can use data, in one you can use definition, in one you can give context, in one you can just explain a bit. Even in conclusion you can use way forward or give futuristic solution, or one which you can summarize your answers. So your conclusion and intro should be different across the paper. Otherwise, it would become very boring for the examiner, right? So your intro and conclusion should be different across the paper. That's what I felt. These were the value addition that I did for the mains. Next was the current affairs. Next hurdle is current affairs, because everyone knows that the static part and the current affairs part. So for the current affairs part, my sources were first newspaper. I used to read Indian Express. I did not make notes of the current from the newspapers. What I did was I had a diary. In the diary, I used to write something interesting that I find in the newspaper. This interesting thing can be data, examples, case studies, good quotes, good buzzwords. So these all the things I mentioned in my diary. And after the prelims, when I started my focus on mains, I compiled this into this. So where did I get these facts and data and examples from? Newspapers that I had already written in my diary. I did not used to do the basic stuff about what is GDP, what is balance of payment that used to come in the newspaper. I got the data, like what is the how much reserves that we have, what are the sources of the reserves, what's the reserve of different countries, how much is Switzerland or something like that, or the example that I used to get. This was my this is how I use newspapers. Second source was that, as you were saying, uncertainty around prelims, right? So you just don't have to like only give your focus on newspapers, because newspapers are very crude thing. He also said that you are reading newspapers but you don't know the background, because GS3 you would read around November, December, but in April also you have started reading newspapers. So what I did was I read the newspaper in the morning in around 1 hour. In the evening, half an hour I used to give to the daily news analysis. Various coaching institute and current affairs website comes out with the daily news analysis. So I used to follow Vision daily news analysis, as well as Drishti. I don't know if they censor it or not. For the Drishti, I followed these two sources. So they give background of what's happening in the news. So if you read about, say, water dispute between Kaveri water dispute, so they give background of what are all the water disputes that are happening, 1963 River Boats Act, or the 263 article about the river dispute, etc. So they give background about the news. They give both the horizontal as well vertical. They go into the deep. They describe a little more about the daily news. So for dealing with the uncertainty as well the conceptual part, since the elimination has been eliminated, you have to know all the facts, all the concepts. So supplement the newspaper reading with reading the daily news analysis. You can follow any of the news website, wherever you feel comfortable with. So do read those things. This will give you a lot of background of the news, because background is important, not just reading the headlines. Also for the newspapers, I did not read it for the UPSC perspective. So for me, newspaper was habit. So I used to start from the sports page first. For me, sports page was the most important page. So I used to start with the sports page, then move into the other page, then in the explained page, then in the opinion page at the last. So I read not just those news which are important for the UPSC. A lot of people would say that read selectively, read only those news which are mentioned in the syllabus or related with the syllabus. I did not do those things. I just read whatever I found interesting. So again, if you have to deal with the uncertainty of the examination, develop newspaper reading as a hobby. Don't just read with a UPSC perspective, because right now they are asking from the sports, they are asking from the Bollywood, from the awards. So if you like follow the conventional wisdom about reading only UPSC mentioned syllabus, you won't be like able to attempt these questions. You also have to build your own personality. You have to differentiate your own personality from someone else. So how would you differentiate your personality? By knowing what is happening around you. It can be in the very different field from the UPSC. It will also like reduce your boredom, because reading the same thing again and again would be very boring. So read the film reviews, read the cricket page. Also Indian Express sports like section is the very good, like the best in the market. So I used to like religiously read all the sports news items. So it used to break the monotony of the UPSC in preparation. You won't be bored of reading the newspapers. So read newspapers in that way. Also, I used to follow Vision Monthly, so I did not make notes. What I did for the mains was I compiled a last 3-4 months Vision Monthly and highlighted them and then revised a lot of them. I would have revised more than 10 times. So if you like notice the previous year question paper, the current affairs asked in the mains are of the previous 3-4 months. They are, if you give the like mains next year in the September, they won't be asking the current affairs of say April this year or the March this year. It would be a April, May, June, July, August of that particular year. So focus more on those 3-4 months. Just revise them like hell, because it would come in examination. Current affairs would come in examination. What I also did with current affairs was I preempted the question that would come both in my GS paper as well as optional paper. If I give an example, I predicted that James Webb telescope would come in an examination because it was in news a lot. So it actually came in examination, and a lot of people were not like ready with that. But I had a lot of diagrams, lot of facts, lot of concepts, as well as examples about what it had already found. So that by that time it had already like started releasing a lot of images. So I gave an examples. That's why my like score in GS3 is exceptional, because average in GS3 is 80s or 70s. Highest is 107, then 102, 101 and 100. So for GS3 you can preempt, because lot of GS3 questions are based on current affairs, science and tech current affairs, environment current affairs. For even for disaster management, they are asking from the recent disaster that is happening. So you can actually predict the question that would come in the examination, so that you can get a little advantage over others. That was my whole like current affairs strategy. Coming to the next, revision and test. Again, as I had already told, I joined a yearly test series, and my revision cycle was also uh, synchronized with the test. So if a test was there, I used to revise 2 days before that. Then again GS2 test used to come, I used to revise GS2. Then again GS3, 4 again. The revision happened because of the test. You also have to know like why are you revising, otherwise it becomes very boring, right? So I used to revise for giving the test, because if you see the examination, it is 1 year from now, right? So 1 year from now you would be feeling very boring to revise the same things again and again. For me, the test was for the next week or the next 10 days. So I used to revise for a particular test, so that it became like kind of a game for me. I used to revise for a particular test and then again for the particular test. So revision became more interesting for me. So that's how I did my revision. Next was the motivation. Like most of you might have the question, how did I motivate myself to clear in the first attempt? So for me, the motivation was fear. You might be surprised why fear, because mostly something else motivation. So for me, fear was that I don't want to stagnate. All my friends are getting jobs, moving ahead with their lives. But in UPSC preparation, what you have to like, if you like miss one attempt, you have to read the same thing again and again. It becomes very boring. So my logic was that I would do all the things in the first attempt itself, so that I don't have any regrets. So I did not want to have regrets or the fear of stagnating, fear of repeating the same thing again and again. Like it gives me anxiety to even think about getting in this cycle for 3-4 years. So for me, it like pushed me to attend the test. I like for the integrated prelims, it had 50 tests. I don't think anyone would have given all the 50 tests, but I gave all the 50 tests. I gave all the 20 optional tests for the mains. I gave all the tests. I used to like just show up every day out of fear that I won't have to show up the next year. So fear can actually motivate you better than anything else. So for me, fear was the best motivation. Now moving to the next hurdle, interview. Again, as Manan said, you won't be giving interview till around 1.5 year. So if I say my journey, I got 179. My board was Satyavati ma'am board. So I was expecting a lot more in the interview. I was expecting at least 185, but I don't know, as you said, luck plays a lot of role in the interview. You don't know how your interview well, how they received your answers. So for you right now at your stage of preparation, I would request you to develop your own personality separate from what you have been preparing for the UPSC. Don't just limit your personality to those basic books that you read, one kind of friends, that the friends that you have for the UPSC preparation. Make your friend list wider, make friends from some other background. Like I had friends from my college who were not in the UPSC, like UPSC cesspit, I can say. So I used to interact with them, I used to discuss cricket with them, films with them. So my personality was something different. I did not give all my time, all my attention to the UPSC. I had a lot of other hobbies, extracurricular things that I did. I used to watch every cricket match. Even during my preparation, I used to watch every cricket match. If you remember, mains was in 15 or 16 September, and Asia Cup final was on 11 or 12 September. And that match was between Sri Lanka and something Bangladesh or Pakistan. So it did not even have India. I still watched the match because I loved cricket. So for me, cricket was more important than like giving the mains. Like 4 days before the mains, I was watching the match. Even between like prelims and GS 1, 2, 3, 4, like one weekend and other weekend that we have optional paper, there was a match of India and Australia. So used to watch that match. My thinking was that I should not have regrets of wasting my 3 hours. So if you are having regrets that you are wasting your 3 hours in the match, don't waste your time. But I did not regret the things. That for me the logic was that if 3 hours not studying for the 3 hours could waste all the things I've studied in 1 year, there is no point of studying for the 1 year, right? You can study for only 3 hours and pass the examination. So I used to think like that. If I'm preparing for the one whole year, 3 hours won't matter much. वैसे भी मेरा दिमाग होता मैच में, right? I would not have concentrated in the study. I would always have checked the scores. I would always have opened ClickWatch or Hotstar for the watching a match. So I just like went with the flow. I went with the I chose match. It gave me a break. As he has said about mental health, develop a hobby. So for me, this watching cricket was a kind of mental health trick for me to like calm myself, don't be bored with this examination. So that's what I did. I was talking about interview, I went through something else. So for interview, you have to develop your own personality separate from the UPSC. You can do this by like developing small hobby, developing reading things away from the UPSC. So I used to read every interesting article that I could find. It can be in the Economist or the New York Times or the Atlantic or the Vulture, separate from the Indian publication, Indian newspapers that you read. You can start reading these things just as a hobby in your free time, so that you can different perspective of what's happening in other countries as well as your own country. Like you get perspective of a foreigner about things happening in our country. Just don't take it on a face value, because they don't know anything about our country. Our writers know a lot more. So I just used to read their perspective. This helped me like gaining confidence in the examination, gaining confidence in the interview, because I think the most important thing in crossing all these hurdles is the confidence. You have to be confident in your own strategy, your own preparation, and this will help you in all the stages: prelims, mains, interview. So have confidence. You can get confidence by doing all the syllabus, making your own notes, giving a lot of tests, and getting good marks in the test. If you are not getting good marks, you would obviously have low confidence. Thankfully, this was not my problem. I used to get quite good marks in all the tests of different coaching. So this was never a problem for me. Next hurdle is result. So for result, why I have chosen result as a hurdle? Because for like 3 reasons. First is that results and the next year prelims are like 1 week and 2 weeks separate from each other. So expecting the result, you have to like prepare for the next year prelims. So for me, I was preparing for the next year 28 my prelims 1 hour, even 1 hour before my result. The result came on 1:30. So by 12 till 12 I was reading, I was revising my own notes, I was giving a lot of tests. So I was preparing for the 28 my prelim. The first is you have to like wait for the result, but don't waste your time waiting for the result. You don't want it to be hurdle in your next attempt. If you waste time in just waiting for the result, you won't pass the next year prelims, because you won't be getting the ranks you want, you won't be getting the service you want. The second point is related to that, how to deal with the results, because there's fixed number of IAS seat or the IFS seat, because first preference is IAS. All of you are, no one is like aiming for IIAS, right? Everyone is aiming for IAS or IFS or some for the IPS. So how do you deal with deal with those ranks in which you won't be getting IAS and IPS? So for that, you need a support system that say, and it will also like vary from first attempt to like sixth, seventh attempt. In sixth, seventh attempt, you would take with all the hands the rank you are getting or the service you are getting. But for the first attempt student, first or second student, first, second attempt student, how would you deal with those rank in which you are not getting IFS or IFS? So for me, what I did was, I accepted the unpredictability that I don't know what rank I would get. So I started preparing for the prelims, I started preparing for the next years. So this helped me cope up with the pressure of the examination, because you become nervous at the time of the result. It can lead to lot of wastage. So that's why I put result as a hurdle. And even after the result, there you get lot, if you like get selected in the top 100 or top 50, you get lot of media attention, you get you you know people, a lot of people come to your house, and someone you don't even know them, they come to your house, put a like shawl over your soldier, congratulate you, click a photo, and then go. Nothing, just click a photo, upload on their social media, and they go. They don't even ask me like how are you feeling, or how did you like pass this examination. I'll tell you a story. I was in a restaurant back in my village, doing a party. So one guy came and he asked for a selfie. He said, "You are Shubham sir, na?" I said, "Yes." He just asked for the selfie and went. Nothing else. So how do you deal with that? I think it is also more important. That's why I put the result in the hurdle. I think that's I done. I won't be talking about this hurdle because I'm not still a civil servant. So these were my hurdles. If you have questions till now from what I have said, you can ask. Otherwise, we can have common Q&A.
Many congratulations to you, sir. You said that you wrote so many tests and you got good marks. So where did you learn the answer writing skills from?
That's a good question. Where did I learn from? To be honest, there is no single source from where I learned. I analyzed the topper's copy, what worked for them, or listened to the topper's talk, and just went with the flow. What I meant is, I started daily answer writing at the beginning of the preparation in June 2021 itself. So in daily answer writing, what I did was, I picked two questions, since I was part of the integrated prelims and mains. In that there was a component of daily answer writing. So I used to send my two answers, I used to upload my two answers, and they used to send the evaluation next day. So it actually worked for me. I started knowing what kind of answers to write, how to write based on daily answer writing. So there might be question about when to start daily answer writing. So even to answer your question, it came gradually. I can't show you my initial test papers to the current test papers, but at the initial time I could not even finish the paper. My handwriting was very slow. I did not use to substantiate my arguments. I could not even complete the papers. So I started daily answer writing. I used to write two answers daily. I gave a lot of tests. Even in the starting itself, I gave 3-hour tests, not like 1 hour or sectional tests. I started giving all the 3-hour tests. I have not given a single less than 3-hour test. All my tests have been 3-hour full length tests. So I started, I just accepted that I won't be getting good score at the beginning. So you also have to modify your own expectations. So I accepted them. I won't be writing good answers at the beginning. But I knew that my answers would improve if I worked on the feedback that I have received. I also used to analyze my answers after the test. I would give an example of how serious I was with my test. So at the beginning of the preparation, since I had geography optional, there was GS paper about Indian geography. and in that he had given me only 75 marks, and his feedback was very generic. In all my answers he had given same feedback, like you should work on this, you should work on this in all the paper. So I complained to the management about how poor the evaluation is, so that increased my marks, and that my copy was checked by some other person. So by giving this example, I'm trying to tell you that you have to be serious about the test, about the marks you are getting, about the feedback you are getting. I was not worried about the marks. I was more worried about the feedback that he was giving me. The same feedback for the every answer. That's why I complained to the management. So saying it will improve gradually, but accept that your answer won't be very good at the beginning. So you can start daily answer writing, and by the end of the cycle in around August, September, when you will be writing your mains, your answer would be very good.
And one more thing, you wrote 3 hours test daily.
Not daily, not daily. No one writes daily, right?
Okay, okay. So how did you manage this note making and meanwhile giving tests also sometimes?
See, since my tests were like weekly, on Saturday, Sunday, the test used to be taken. So I got around 1 week for preparing micro. It was not like GS2 test or GS1 test whole paper. It used to be a 3-hour test of, say, history, say, art and culture and society, or the Indian geography, or the world geography. So I got 1 week to prepare for one topic, 1 week for, say, preparing modern history. So in 2-3 days I used to read the spectrum, then another 2 days I used to make my own notes, and then 1 day I used to revise my own notes, then again give test, then again this cycle used to repeat. For example, if I gave first test was art and culture, so I prepared for art and culture. Second test was for Indian geography, I prepared geography. Third test was say society and other things and history, so I prepared. Then again after that GS1 test used to be there. So I used to revise again all the things that I already given the test of. So this cycle used to repeat twice. It was even before the prelims, I had given more than 50 tests. So these 60 tests that I'm saying, this happened between prelims and mains. Before prelims, I had already given around 45 tests, which were part. So these 45 tests were GS 1, 2, 3, 4 twice. Also the sectional 3-hour length test of history, of art and culture, of IR. So I had given a lot of tests, and my revision also used to take place. So even before prelims, I had given a lot of iteration of tests as well as revision.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. You have completed your graduation in computer science engineering. Sir, what question you have asked in your interview for your academic background?
They did not ask a single question from the DAF. Nothing from the DAF, not from the computer science, not from the hobbies I have mentioned, not from the position of responsibility I have mentioned. They are also smart, right? They are not like, they know what kind of things we prepare on. So they did not touch my DAF at all. They asked mostly from the international relations part, since my first preference was IFS. 50 to 60% was about international relations, like Russia-Ukraine war, India-China, India-Nepal, some questions from the Bihar, and some random questions.
Sir, but you have any questions regarding you have not got into placement, and here is you are preparing for UPSC like that?
I did not sit for placement. From the beginning, in the college itself, I decided that I would sit for the UPSC. So even in my interview, the first question was, why did not you go for further education, that is post graduation? So I told ma'am that my first preference was sitting for this examination, and if I don't qualify for this examination, maybe 3 years, 4 years down the line, I would have done post graduation and then thought about getting placement or getting a job. So I did not think about getting a placement, did not even try to sit for the placement. So if your priority is UPSC, give your whole focus to UPSC, at least for the first, second attempts.
Okay, sir. Sir, I have one question. You have told about that fear is your motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. But you have no any peer pressures regarding that all friends and classmates are go for placements and you have prepared for these exams.
So by fear I meant, I also totally explained you, by fear I meant fear of stagnating, fear of doing the same thing again. I did not buy into the all the peer pressure about. I also told about my friends are like moving away. So I did not interact much with my friends. Also, I expected that I would be giving 2 years of my life to this. After 2 years, I would see that whether I am comparable to my peers, comparable to my friends. So I told myself that give your focus for 2 years and then compare yourself with your friends and the peers and your classmates.
Sir, how do I personally feel that fears? How I manage this, because I also have completed my graduation in computer science engineering. So I have a lot of pressures because my friends go into corporate groups. That's why I feel very sometimes demotivated me this.
To be honest, I don't know how to answer that because I have not experienced that. But I would say that give your whole focus to the UPSC preparation. If you pass this examination, you would be way above them, way above what they earn in the corporates, or you might be like noticing that in corporate they give a lot of money, average salary is very high, but average salary is very low. They are giving 30,000-40,000 per month. So don't think about that. If you pass this examination, you would be way above them. Don't think about that, all the things. I did not think about all those things. My whole focus was on the UPSC preparation. If you have, as I said, if you have made the decisions, give all your energy to backing up that decision. Don't be regretful about the decision that you took. Please don't have regrets about the decision. If you are still in the two minds, I would request you to think about, talk about with mentors, talk with your parents, and then move ahead with the decision. So I think you are in the two minds about sitting for the placement, ignoring placement, and preparing for the UPSC.
Yes.
Please focus on the UPSC preparation, at least for the first attempt. There is no point of thinking after the first attempt. After the first, second attempt, then think about all those things.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you can start.
Sir, my question is to Mr. Shubham. I want to be an IFS, but I want to know that what makes you to choose IFS?
He has also chosen IFS as first preference, so like both can answer. So what made me choose IFS was that I always had an interest in IR and foreign policy. The next thing was that I analyzed the lifestyle of IAS. I did a research where I went to the net and read about how the lifestyle of IAS is and how the lifestyle of IFS is. But no offense to anyone, but I thought I found out that the lifestyle of IAS is very boring compared to IFS. So I went for the exciting stuff. Also, I thought that as India is growing in the future, IFS would be very challenging and exciting job. So I went for the excitement part. He can also answer the same.
I would like to add that for me, it was the opportunity to represent India at the international stage. So in class 10th, I remember in our history class, history subject, we learnt about UN, the organization called as UN, and that every country sends its representative. And I remember there was a photograph where the representative of India sat, and in front of him or her, there is a small board that reads India. And behind her, there is a flag of India. So that was what got me thinking that I want this job, that no matter what I do in future, I want to represent India, to have that label of India in front of me. So I think that was what IFS offers, and that attracted me.
Thank you, sir.
So my question is for Manan sir. Since your optional is mathematics, so how did you revise your optional throughout the year? Because in maths, it happens that once you read a subject and for 5-6 months you are reading, like for example, if you start with modern algebra and for 5-6 months after completing modern algebra, you study different parts, and after 5-6 months when you again come to modern algebra, it's almost feel like out of touch, and it seems like new again reading same thing. So how did you revise that option?
It is very important that you keep on revising your math syllabus. It is quite large, as well as the importance of recalling formulae is very important to solve the questions in time. So my strategy was that in the first attempt I had completed the syllabus of maths by around March or April of 2020. then came the news that prelims was postponed till October. So in July and August, I made sure that I gave around 4 or 5 tests of paper 1 and paper 2 each. So when I gave the test, I used to give myself 3 or 4 days time to revise the maths syllabus and then prepare for the test. So by the way, I would be sharing the detailed strategy day after tomorrow. There is a talk at IMS and also on my Telegram channel there are strategies, but my basic idea was to give as many tests. So now when you give a test, there is a motivation to prepare for that test. And as Shubham was saying that he followed the entire year-long schedule. So this is relevant for all subjects. When you schedule a test, in the days leading up to the test, you would be preparing very diligently for that test. It would be kind of excitement that I am giving a test, so you revise for that. Now during the test, again your brain is working to analyze the part which you have studied. So it would crunch those numbers and all the content that you have read. So during the test also you are improving your recall ability. And after the test, analyzing the mistakes that you have done, you would again improve. So giving tests is a very important way to revise the syllabus. Regarding modern algebra, as you said, it is indeed a very difficult topic of the syllabus. So my approach was to initially start with revising the basic formulae and definitions and solving only the basic questions from the 2 books of R. Kumar. And later on only when I was fairly confident, then I went into the tougher questions that are 15 marker or 20 marker. However, in this attempt also, I did not attempt any optional question from modern algebra. It was only the basic questions in the compulsory section, and I could easily attempt the other parts. So that was my approach.
Sir, my question is that how to prepare for essay specifically?
So what I did was I followed a lot of toppers who have scored very good marks in the essay. For example, Vikram Giwal sir. I read his blog and read his essay, and based on that I prepared my own strategy. Before I go to the strategy, one thing that I would like to say is that originality is being rewarded in the essay. So you have to be the original. You don't copy what the toppers have said. I tried to copy what the toppers have done. I followed a set pattern like vertical dimension, horizontal dimension. I got just average or above average marks. 170 is above average basically. So bring your own originality. For preparation, what I did was I made a separate sheet of quotes, anecdotes that I would like to bring in the papers. I tried practicing those anecdotes as well as some methods of writing essay in the test. For example, starting with an anecdote and finishing with the same anecdote, how to make various dimensions, or how to connect all the paragraphs, how to make it more coherent. So preparation was not extensive as GS or I just went with the natural flow. I went with the originality with some added aspects from the various toppers. As I said, horizontal dimension, vertical dimension. But I would request you to bring your own originality to the essay paper.
I would just like to add that you can also do practice of essay topics. Although, see what happens, as I suggested for GS mains test series, similarly you can pick up different topics of essay test series also from different coachings. And like you do in the first 20 minutes of the entire 90 minutes, you just make a framework of what you are going to write. Similarly, you can make that 20-minute framework for multiple topics. And this will help you analyze and connect the dots in your head better. And even when you face a new topic in the exam, most of the examples that you have already read, they would come to your mind very easily when you are facing a new topic. So that can be one way. But I agree that originality is very important, and that is, I think, being rewarded.
My question is for both of you. My question is, what was your schedule or revision pattern just 1 month before prelims?
I just gave a lot of tests, whatever free test I could find. I gave tests of almost every coaching institute, but a lot of them are free. Just give 1 or 2 simulation tests. So I used to give tests, revise in the afternoon, do the analysis of the test, add in my notes something which I missed or something new that I learned. So there's no fixed pattern. If I give small anecdote, That time, at the time of prelims, few months before prelims, IPL used to happen, right? In the prelim, I used to like give 3 hours for the IPL and do the rest of the stuff in other time. So there was no fixed schedule, but just prepare, give test, revise, and analyze the test. Manan would say some.
I would just add that in the last month before the prelims, so you can divide it into two parts. First is the up to 10 days leading the prelims. So in those final 10 days, you can stick to just revision of what you have already studied and going through your short notes. And the tests which you have already attempted, you would have definitely marked some important questions or you wrote something. So you can revise those tests in the final 10 days. And the 20 days before those 10 days, you can go at a high intensity for writing tests. You can even write one test daily and analyze that test. For example, 2 hours or maybe 90 minutes for writing the test if you are not filling the OMR. And you can analyze and go through the solutions in another 2 hours. So you can make that 4-hour investment in the 20 days before. So that would help you, as Shubham was saying, that give more practice, take more practice for the test. So you can do high intensity practice there.
Congratulations to both of you, sir. Sir, my question is to Manan, sir. What might had your next plan or strategy if you were not been selected? Or do you had plan B?
Even when the result came, I was studying for prelims. So I would have given the 4th attempt as well. Because the thing that motivated me was that I had reached the interview stage in the 1st attempt. And again, going to till the interview in the 3rd attempt. So no matter what the result would have been, I have given 2 interviews in 3rd attempt, so in 3 attempts. So I was confident that I have to make some incremental improvement and I might clear it in 4th, 5th, whatever attempt it takes. So that would have been.
Sir, is it necessary to make the notes on every topic of the syllabus of mains?
I would say yes, because I did that. Some toppers might not have done that, but for me, what I felt was if I made my own notes, it would get imprinted in my memory. So that recall factor was there. I would recall very easily if I had my own notes of every single topic. But again, be smart. You don't have to make notes of Lakshmikant because it's a note itself. You don't have to make notes of, say, or economy book that you are reading. If that is in the note format, don't waste your time on that. Also, it will depend on how much time that you have. I had a lot of free time, so I made my own notes.
Okay, sir.
First of all, congratulations, sir, to both of you. Sir, I want to ask Shubham, sir, that how was your strategy towards optional, since my optional is geography?
So I think you would have to attend another session for that, because it would be a very long session. I won't be describing my strategy again in few minutes, but I attended a foundation course. I completed my syllabus by January 2022, then gave few tests before the prelims. I made my own notes of everything, and after the prelims, I just revised, gave tests, did value addition. This was the basic strategy. But they would upload a lot of other coaching that I did. They would upload the whole strategy video. I would also write somewhere all my strategies, share my notes and the answer tests. So wait for that.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Congratulations, both of you. Sir, what was your first reaction after result?
ये तो मीडिया वाला क्वेश्चन पूछने लगे क्या ही हो, खुशी होगा, उसके अलावा तो कुछ हो नहीं सकता है. ऑब्वियस क्वेश्चन है यार ये.
स्पेशल
क्या
स्पेशल
क्या स्पेशल होगा? It would be happiness, right? Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. Also relief for me, it was also relief that I won't be giving tests on 28. Since I was back at my home in Madhubani, I had my center for prelims was in Delhi, so I had booked my train ticket of 25th of May. So it was a relief cancelling all the tickets and all. So apart from that, it was also, apart from happiness, it was also relief.
So second question is how to choose optional.
Again, very vague question, but For me, it is a ratio of 70% interest and 30% strategy. Strategy about which optional is more scoring, which optional is taking less time, which optional is complementing other GS papers. So for me, I had interest in geography. That's why I took geography. So if you are interested in a particular subject, to take that as a option. Even Manan was interested in maths. That's why he took maths. You won't be taking anthro just for the sake of it. If a particular optional is not working for you in 3 or 4 attempts, you can change the optional. So if I give an example of rank 3 Uma Hariti, she had optional of geography for 2 or 3 attempts and then changed the optional to anthropology. So it varies from people to people. Just go with the interest that you have, because interest is very important in the optional. If you just can't go with the strategy or the optional that the topper has taken, because in the last few years anthro and the PSIR has gained the like cult status that if you want to score more, you take these two. But in all the optional, average is around same because scaling happens, right? Most of you might be knowing, might not be knowing, but scaling happens in the optional where the average of all the optional is somewhat similar. So take anything that interests you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. Sir, congratulations to both of you. Sir, I have 2 questions. First one is, as far as mains is concerned, what would be a better option to just look at the question paper questions one by one, all 20 questions first of all, and then to probably mark the questions which are easy for you to attempt first or probably attempt better, and mark some questions which are difficult and like probably ignore them to a bit comparatively. What would be the better choice? Or alternatively go from top to bottom and like attempt one after the other?
Before he shares his own strategy, my strategy was that I would attempt the first 2 questions, because first impression is the last impression. So I would attempt the first 2 questions, then go to the last 10 questions, because these are 15 markers. You don't want to leave the 15 markers because the share of marks are higher. So I would to do first 2 questions, then last 10 questions, then come to the rest 8 questions. I did this in all my papers. This was my line of answering.
My strategy was also similar. I would, in the first, we get the question paper 5 minutes before. So if the paper starts from 9 a.m., so that is the time when we start writing. But in the exam hall, we get the question paper by 8:55. So you have 5 minutes in the starting where you can read the question paper. Now it is very important if you to maximize those 5 minutes. What I used to do was, first of all, read the entire question paper. In the first 10 questions, those 10 markers, I used to select 5 questions in which I was very confident that I had a good grasp over. I used to mark those 5 questions. Then then I would just glance through the 15 markers, but I would not make any marking there. Regarding the 5-10 markers which I had no idea about, so I would have roughly 3.5 minutes remaining, and these 5 questions, I would just scribble in the question paper itself the points that I can write in those 5 questions. These can be just one word or some short forms or something. And now when the time starts for writing, I would first attempt the 5-10 markers which I have marked. Then I would attempt all the 10-15 markers, and I would be attempting those 5-10 markers which I had less idea in the end. Now since I have scribbled something in the question paper, some short form, or I have underlined something in the question paper, at the time barely 25 minutes would be there in the end when you would have to write these 5 questions. Ideally there should be 35, but we don't live in an ideal world, so lastly we would have around 20-25 minutes to write these 5 questions. The best benefit of having written something in the question paper in the starting will be visible to you at the end, when you have already ready-made points which you can just copy in your answer sheet, and you can finish the answer in 4 or 5 minutes very easily if you have the points already written in the question paper. So that was one way in which I could complete the paper and also attempt the easier ones in the starting. It would give me confidence to begin with a good flow.
Just to add, there is no perfect strategy.
Yeah.
You can like attempt anything. Perfection
Exactly.
is a myth. It is boring, right? Except for Sachin straight drive. Those are perfect. Otherwise, everything. There is no such thing as perfect. Make your own strategy. Give the test. You will find what works for you.
Right.
I mean, it's quite interesting that both of your first preference is PSIR and none of you have taken optional as PSIR. But I have my optional as PSIR, and PSIR, I found out that there are certain questions which are based on certain events which are like 4 or 5 years ago. So to that extent, I feel very like scary. Like how can I take up or memorize some issues or topics which are mentioned in the news 5 years ago? If you know about this issue in PSIR optional, or you have no idea about this?
To be honest, I have no idea.
Okay, that's
Even
fine.
I am hearing it for the first time, but I think if something was in the news 4 or 5 years ago and is being asked now, I think it is there for everyone. I mean, just as a general perspective, my view is that it is the question is difficult for everyone, or the to strategize it is difficult for everyone. So maybe you can, but I'm not sure. I'm not the right person to advise you. So I would.
Yes, sir. I already asked you that question. So you have asked me to ask in the last. So we already have this bulky notes, lecture notes. We have vision material, and we have standard book, and we have a monthly magazine. So now we already have this bulky notes, and we have to add in this. So what to add? How to make this bulky notes actually?
How to make these notes?
Already this is bulky, and we have to add also. So from where to add, what to add?
No, it's not necessary that you have to add. It's the idea is that if you come across something new in the test series or in the newspapers, which you think is relevant for the notes. For example, I will give you an example that in 2019, when I did the foundation course, at that time, the faculty at Vision, they taught us something about the PDS system or the Food Corporation of India and all that. But as time progressed and my journey into the exam progressed, 2020, 21 and all, so there were some changes. For example, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana was introduced regarding the PDS. So I would just, within my class notes, I would just make a small subheading on wherever I find space regarding this new scheme. What are the 2 or 3 benefits of this? Similarly, regarding nano urea liquid, which was introduced. So I did not have this in my class notes. But when this scheme was added or this product was introduced, I would add this in my class notes. So these kind of things you can add. This would help because everything would come at a single place. Now before the exam, you would have the headache that I have to revise 3 or 4 different sources. But if you have everything at one place, that headache reduces. So this is how you add, but you don't have to add everything there. Only very crisp and very relevant things have to be added.
So how did you use vision material?
The printed material?
Yes, sir.
I hardly used the printed material because I found the classes quite sufficient for what I needed. And also I did not have time because the very purpose why I was attending the classes was that I can only devote those 3 or 4 hours for GS studies. Rest had to be given to the optional. So that's why I wanted the videos, because I also wanted a break from reading the books from maths. If I was also reading books for GS, then this would have been a very boring preparation for me. So I just wanted to watch the videos, make notes, and proceed like that. So I did not refer too much to the printed material.
Okay, sir. And sir, can we go ahead with magazine only for the current affairs?
You mean
reading news?
Yeah.
Hello. Reading newspaper just to read, and for memorizing or learning the magazine.
See, when you read the newspaper, there would definitely be 1 or 2 items every day which would be important. So it is important that, see, once you start the attitude that I will just read it, I will not make notes of it, it will be more of a casual exercise, like reading a fiction book or something. So your attention would wander. So if you can make some short notes out of the newspaper every day, then you have that discipline. No, I have to read it diligently. I have to find out what's important or not. So read the newspaper in that way. But the monthly magazine is a very exhaustive coverage, and it is like a fallback option. Even if you miss out a newspaper, then things would be covered in the monthly magazine. But the context and the understanding would develop only if you read the newspaper regularly. So don't miss out on that.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have to say something?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are we done with the questions? It's been a very long session. Chalo.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.